My name is Rochelle Holland. For this week's Exploration Activity 3, I went to a Karen church, that is Karen church service at the Karen Baptist Church here in Omaha, Nebraska, with a fellow student of mine by the name of Mu Pao. I can tell you that I was in a complete culture shock. Me and Moo had talked about it, and she let me know a little bit of what to expect, but she didn't want to divulge too much because she wanted me to go into the experience not as much as prepared, but also from a place where she hadn't prepped and primed me to quite know what to expect. She did give me a couple of tips by letting me know that I will find, as being older, that a lot of the younger people wouldn't look me directly in the eye as a sign of respect. She let me be prepared for that, but she wanted me to experience everything as it came up and told me to be prepared to go along with whatever. So the first thing was that the majority of the service was in a different language. However, I consider myself a spiritual person. I went to church all the time as a child. I grew up in the church, being an African American woman, church, Christianity, regardless of if it's Baptist or apostolic or whatever, we were in there. What I gauged from it was the feeling of the spirit in the room. By also being amazed by how much it's not too different than any other church I've been to. There's music, there's worship, there's praise. I actually went in with a bias of thinking that the men were going to be on one side of the room and the women were going to be on another, that the women were going to have all the children and everything was going to be separate. So I can say that was a teaching for me to remember to shed my biases before I walk into any room. Also, afterwards, it was no going to the service and going home. There was going to the service, eating, sitting down, having people coming up, asking me a bunch of questions, wanting to know who I was. The pastor also knew that I was going to be there, and let the congregation know that I was going to be there, and I received a warm greeting. The being in the mix of having things translated, people bowing back, watching Moo laugh because she was completely thrilled, and she mentioned a lot to me that now I know what it felt like when she had to do this with me in another class that we had. I took her with me on an experience. It wasn't church, but I took her on an experience. So there's not many things that send me into a culture shock, but this did send me into a culture shock, but it also had a lot to do with who I am as a person. When I get through something, I am ready to go. So to sit and to eat and to make sure that culturally that I don't offend anyone by learning from like the readings on the Asian community, that there is a respect that is expected from people, and you can offend someone by not eating their food. You can offend someone by not taking off your shoes when you enter their house. You can offend someone by not bowing. You can offend someone by looking them straight in their eyes. So I completely enjoyed the experience. I wish I knew more of the language. I was grateful that Moo did translate from time to time. But then a lot of it, she really didn't have to, because they would put on the board the scriptures in English as well as in their language. So I pretty much got a lot of the gist of it. Would I do it again? Of course I would do it again. It was enlightening. The Korean community are prominent in my community. There is a lot of apartment complexes and communities within my community now that is of the Korean refugees that came from Myanmar to Thailand, from Thailand to here. So they will be part of the demographic that I will be serving. Moo was explaining to me that she grew up in the refugee camp. She was born there. Coming here to the United States was a culture shock for her. That for a while, off and on, that she was depressed. And it was one of the things that made her want to become a chemical dependency counselor, because of all the drinking that was going on in her community. And it also was driving her to want to move forward as a therapist. There is a lack of representation for them. And because of the lack of representation, somebody needs to represent them and also provide for them mental health services. So I feel that I am on the right path with what I want to do in the community that I want to serve. Not just people that look like me, but people that look like everyone. And that also includes them. I'm sorry, excuse me. I am so sick. So thank you.